In this assignment, or in this video, we'll be introducing the Travel and Tourism Part 1 Responsive Webflow Site. All right, so when we take a look at this assignment, first of all, the main focus on this will be strongly on digital and on-screen content, thinking about the travel and tourism industry. You will have the opportunity to select a state or country to work with. I'm going to let you choose this rather than drawing out of a hat at random. You will get to choose it. However, this should not be a location that you have previously traveled to. You will create, we'll start by doing the 2-page responsive Webflow site in part 1, and then later, after you have this research and foundation, we will build off of that a travel app prototype. So you will be repurposing some of your user interface items like your type, your images, your colors, your overall attributes that you create in your site. We'll be using some of those things in the prototype. So keep that in mind as you build your visual digital assets, particularly in your style tile when you develop that. So thinking about create content appropriate for the target audience, utilizing digital layout and prototyping techniques, and creating multi-page web content that demonstrates advanced understanding of design and layout techniques for the screen. You know, we talk a lot about print, but we really want to also understand the differences in how on-screen user interactions affects what we create visually. Okay, so I want you in this assignment, you'll focus on and highlight welcome and general information for travel to this area location, featured areas and locations of your chosen point that you plan to work with, historical, cultural locations and activities. Think about highlighting recreation, entertainment, restaurants, services such as lodging, transportation guides, and also area maps or infographic-based things that help us with geographic location. Okay, and I really want you to put yourself in the traveler's shoes. So when traveling in new locations, visitors typically research prior to planning a trip. They'll usually ask or research, things like where should I stay, what are popular restaurants and bars, what are popular tourist spots, what are family-friendly activities or options, what is this area known for, and are there any travel concerns or cultural norms. Okay, imagery and text. So I'm not going to require you guys to write your copy for this. You can use found information from the location's official websites. You may also copy text from a previous travel guide for that location. So you could also look at their print digital travel guides to help pull content for your website as far as the verbiage and information. Please use free and fair use images. Do not pull crappy or copyright images from Google. Your advanced level class, you should know better than that by now. And I also have a list of recommendations and free images list as well. Okay, so thinking about your research binder, you will build responsive wireframes, and we'll chat more about that in a few minutes. Style tile and your research worksheet. So those are the things that will go into your initial research. As far as researching on your own, you could look at travel and tourism design trends, digital marketing, travel site best practices, and UX UI best practices. I highly recommend just visiting a variety of travel sites. So here's the thing, if you look up, Visit Montana, you can go to the Visit Montana Chamber of Tourism, Chamber of Commerce and Tourism site. You can also look at even travel sites such as like travel agent, travel booking sites. That's not what we're creating here. We're creating one specifically for a location, but there might be some tactics and things that you like about searching and viewing certain aspects for travel that you could apply to this location specific site. Okay. Behance obviously is great. I've got some things pinned on Behance too that I can share with you. Pinterest. And then as far as grading, I'm going to be looking at technical execution, Goals of the creative brief: usability is going to be a big one, composition, and then your understanding of digital design as well, since it's a big part of the conversation that we're having in class. So web-specific concerns. So we talked about kind of the big idea, this is travel and tourism, but thinking about building the site specifically itself, okay? So after you create your wireframes, when you work through your initial design concepts with your style tile, you will translate your wireframes into a working Webflow site. You will first create in desktop view. So we'll talk more in the coming weeks about the responsive, how the responsive site works in Webflow. There are a couple of different things you need to know about the responsive views, but for your first draft, you can focus exclusively on the desktop view. Then we'll work through the various screen views for, so by the end of this will look good on desktop, it will look good on tablet, and it will look good on mobile devices, okay? With Webflow, I highly recommend, prefer that you build the site from scratch with a blank template, especially if you have maybe even you did like a static site with me, or you did just a 2 to 3 page XD prototype with me in a previous class. I want you to build from scratch because you really, you have more control over all of the elements that are on the page. But it's also, this is an advanced level class. Being able to build something from scratch goes a long way. However, with the blank template, Webflow, as we were playing around in our demos, Webflow offers those customized elements that you could use. So those stock elements, those are fair game. Your sticky nav, hero overlay, the generic footer. But here's the thing, you can style those to your customization for your site. It does help you build faster if you use those stock elements, but customization and usability is key here. So I really want you to customize those to your design aesthetic and to the user's needs. Okay. Another thing too, again, really prefer that you build the site from scratch. I'm not against using those blank starter templates that Webflow has, the black and white templates that are on there. However, if you choose this route, I'm going to be even more critical because the starter template should look significantly different visually and layout wise by the time you get done customizing it. Okay, so if you do use a blank starter, I'm really going to be looking for you to bring your own spin and originality on manipulating that template and using it for what you really need for this assignment. Okay, so required site components. The free version of Webflow will allow you to build 2 pages. You will have a wireframe for each page and a responsive wireframe for each page. So with your wireframes, those are going to be a little bit more robust this time. You will have, you've got 2 pages, the home page and then another page that you will choose to build out. So you will have desktop wireframes for both of those views for both pages, as well as tablet and mobile. So we're going to go ahead and build out all the wireframes. You're not going to worry about the other 2 screen designs until the second draft, but I do want you to go ahead and build out the wireframe so you can think about how this desktop page is going to scale down and how items are going to be manipulated in each view for the responsive design. So you'll have in your site, you'll have your header area with your logo, branding, and navigation, a hero image, or a featured content area, whatever that looks like for you, however you think that will be best for your location. Each page must have at least 3 sections on the page. So this excludes your hero, or this excludes your header, your hero area, and your footer. So I want your page, each page that you build, to have at least 3 individual sections. Again, we're looking for, this is more than just a prototype. This will be a working published site by the time we get done that you could have as a showpiece, but we're really looking for more robust content, okay? Really getting the feel for site layout. Secondary content areas, booking and other resources, call to action items as needed, a footer area with contact info, necessary information, and any additional content as needed or determined by you based on your research and what you think your users will need and find most helpful. All right, so jumping forward, I just want to show, and this will also pop up in our other presentation that you guys will look at, or maybe you've already looked at that first. But just reiterating this, if we take a look at here, this is the Visit California site. And again, sorry for the little disheveled nature here. I literally screenshotted this and pieced these together to show you what their landing page looks like. It's actually a little bit longer than this. I had to cut it a little bit, but you can kind of get the full effect here of what this looks like. So if we just break down areas of a web page, specifically the landing page, obviously your secondary page is going to look a little different. But your landing page, that big showstopper that we first come to when we visit the page, our header and navigation area, our hero featured content area, which essentially is this whole little section here. Your secondary content area, again, highlighting various areas of the state or country, because with California, California is very diverse and vast in what it offers. So breaking down those areas for potential traveler, call to action items, just subscribe to the newsletter. There are also other call to action items, right? So think about those, what other things you might include. And then obviously things that will be on each page of your site will be your header and your footer. So once you create those, those will be consistent on both pages of your site. Okay. Typography and hierarchy. So remember, good sites use simple type, no more than 2 typefaces. This is highly recommended that you find one large type family and work within that. Okay. I believe that Webflow will allow you to add other Google fonts, or at least it used to before they updated. They just recently updated. But even if you just work with the typography Webflow offers you, there's still a good amount of decent options. But I believe you can also integrate Google Fonts through Webflow's type widget as well. Okay. Good UX starts with a clear and easy to navigate hierarchy. Be sure to keep this in mind when building your static pages. Thinking about condensing and restructuring content, and utilizing images, data, and infographics whenever possible. So, and I want to make this clear, you are not redesigning this location's website. You can use their original existing website for content, for ideas, but you're not redesigning their existing sites. This is not a redesign. This is just a whole new concept design for what this might look like, okay? So you don't have to study their existing site too much because you're not redesigning it, but you can use it to get your written content and your copy that you put on your site. But this is not a redesign by any means. This is a re-envisioning a new concept for what this might look like, okay? My apologies, I'm recording from home and something just went down the road. Okay, so thinking about the area, one thing I want to talk to you guys about is this area that we call the above the fold. So think of the screen as the front cover of a newspaper, right? The first part of visible content is usually most of the landing page and the home page. This reveals content below the visible screen area. So you'll see here, right before we go into the rest of the landing page, this is like what we would see on our monitor. And we can tell that there's some awesome engaging content if we just scroll down. So a lot of times people will use their site in a way where they have something that goes right above the fold to encourage the user to scroll down and see more. So scrolling is similar to revealing the bottom half of the newspaper, right? Like if you fold open and you see everything. So really be conscious of like where those screen breaks in those areas. Web content should be viewed in grids and sections as the viewer scrolls down the screen. So just a quick breakdown of the landing page specifically. And then grids on the web. So we talked about wireframes. We're going to talk more about responsive design in general, and also next week, responsive design as that relates to Webflow specifically, because there's some great training that Webflow provides for that. I will also be providing some other demos as well. So obviously the desktop, tablet, and phone. So you guys will notice things start to condense and shuffle as you go down. So you can look at the lettered and the number areas. So 1, 2, 3, 4 in the tablet becomes 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And then it essentially becomes a single column design once you are on a phone screen. So when I'm talking about your wireframes in multiple areas, or your wireframes for responsive design, that's what I'm talking about. So for your home page, you will have desktop wireframe, tablet wireframe, phone wireframe. And same thing for your secondary page. So you will wind up ultimately with 6 wireframes. They can be kind of rough and dirty. They don't have to be super, super robust. But I do want to know that you are thinking about how that content will break down or how that might change. Because a lot of times you will see maybe there's a video in the hero area on the desktop, but then it just becomes a static image on the tablet or the phone. So make sure that you are taking into account those things as you design for each screen, and think about your initial layout and where things might go and how they will flow down to the other sizes. So style tile, a lot of you guys are familiar with this. Mood board essentially, but when we're talking about web specifically, we're talking about style tile. And so style tile is anything from type, patterns and textures, photography, icons, illustrations, button styles, object styles. So how might you style your buttons? How might you style your navigation? Layouts. You can throw some web layout inspiration images in your style tile if you want, and any other particular items. But typically in a mood board, we don't have like button styles and nav styles, right? Because that's web. So with the style tile, exactly thinking about CSS, right? Style sheets. Like what style are you implementing throughout your website, and how might those elements be used? Okay. So again, wireframes, you guys can, I'll post this sheet too, and you guys can read this in detail on your own with wireframes. But again, be sure to complete a responsive wireframe for both pages. You can complete the wireframes by hand, or you can do them digitally. You can even, download some wireframe templates and fill digitally and fill those in. Work electronically. That is totally okay, but make sure that you have a wireframe for each screen of your site, and a responsive view for each. So these are examples of mobile and desktop wireframes, and then up here this is a digital wireframe of desktop, tablet, and mobile. Okay, so thinking about how everything shifts down, and also how it responds to that grid system that web functions off of. And lastly, your research worksheet. So this is just some starter questions to get you driving in the right direction. So again, you can choose a state or a country. A country might even be a little bit more of a challenge because you have to do that extra historical and cultural research that might not be built into something that is domestic here in the States. Okay, so choose whichever you like, but I want you to complete, copy and paste these research questions into your binder. And so in your binder, you will have your wireframe, your style tile, or your wireframes, sorry, all of your wireframes, your style tile, and your research worksheet. And feel free to include any other research or tidbits in this as well. You are always welcome to add other research into your binder outside of what is listed in my requirements. Okay, so that is the breakdown of your Webflow site assignment.